But I think that third show is going to be so dope because again, this is going to be a show where we're going to be able to actually play the music that we're talking about. We're going to be able to after, and I say Monday show because a lot of the music comes out on Friday. We talk about it on Friday, but on that Monday show, we'll be able to go back, digest it over the weekend, and actually play the records on that other show. So, should be
Or
really
even
dope.
just do stuff like this where it's like, because here's the thing about it is that, well, there are a lot of people that probably are not acquainted with Boldy's catalog the way that I am, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I mean. Like the verses where they really, really dropped the ball is that if they really were to make it about the culture and not about the money and the grandiose nature of it and the grandstanding nature of it and make it really about the artist, you get to really reveal the nature of people's catalog.
What
And
what what
and
what what cool. What this was really about. This was about big time music publishers and major corporations getting the most out of their catalogs during the pandemic. That's what this was really about. And they
thank you.
used Swizz and Timberland to hype up some fake grassroots type of thing to do so.
No,
It's like those old school hip hop stations, right? Like they have these old school hip hop stations all around the nation so that they can just go through and play these catalogs that major record labels get paid off of consistently over and over. They'll play Gin and Juice, but they're not gonna play, new Snoop Dogg shit. But Snoop Dogg's an old school hip hop artist, right? Cause like
right.
when we was growing up, our parents had those old school R&B stations. Yeah, they would play the old Osley Brothers shit, but they would also play their new shit too.
You're contagious.
Yeah, so this is about capitalizing off of old catalogs. This ain't about actually, like you said, bringing light to dope music and dope catalogs that people are creating right now. But that's where we come in and we have the opportunity to do stuff like that.
While you were saying all that, it was playing in the back of my head. Hey,
What's
sucking nigga, wherever you are, whoever
it?
you are, wherever you are. Hey, sucking nigga. Right, because it's sucking nigga shit going on uh, once again. And it's just such a problem because, remember when they gave us pushback about when they were getting questions about whether they were doing it for the culture? It's like, this is why in faith, you're taught to test the spirit of people. Like everybody that goes out saying that they're righteous isn't righteous. You have to test them in the faith and in the spirit and through their actionability. We're going to talk about this with the Che Noir problem. A lot of the reason why I bring up the Kendrick Lamar using the B word thing or how Kanye like goes on these riffs is because spiritually it really doesn't line up with the behavior that it's said that you're supposed to have. Like their behavior, Swizz and Tim's behavior in this didn't line up with what they were saying. It didn't. Like it
They were
never
selling
did.
us. They were selling it to us.
They were
Jay Z does this all the time. Jay Z does
they're
this
puppets,
all the time.
but they were puppets too. And ain't it so bad when black men that's worth hundreds of millions of dollars that got authority and say so and can create platforms for themselves will sell themselves, thereby you short just for some more dollars in their bank account because that's all it really is. But that's cool. We gonna do
Well,
like
that was the
Boldy and
other
Rich.
thing, though, Coop. That was the other thing, though. Like you said, they're worth whatever, whatever, and they have all these connections wherever, whatever. I always was like, okay, so why are they selling this to Trilla when if Versus is really their brand, why don't they start a website called Versus like Trilla is? They have all the access to any type of investment they would ever need. They got the numbers, they got the data. What are you selling this to? You know what I'm saying? It doesn't even make sense if this was really theirs. But again, they couldn't do that because they don't own the music. And it is
What's
what it is. And it wasn't their call.
What's that Ice Cube say about when you find out that your favorite rapper ain't got no nuts? It's one of these situations. No, that's what
I
it is.
love
No, I'm
Ice Cube. I love
no,
Ice Cube for those type of lines because that stuff is
right.
so relevant.
It's
And
so
again,
real in a time
Jay
like
does
this. It's
this
like,
stuff to
no,
us all the time. Jay comes with a brand, gets people to buy into it because it's for the culture or whatever, whatever, and then sells it to the highest bidder of anybody that's outside of the culture. I mean, it's what they do.
no.
He's done it
Hey,
multiple times. He sold Prince on title, man.
I don't
Mad
want to get
Max with
into.
the super
No,
chat says,
I was Let's not do that. Let's not do that. Let's not do that.
Mad Max says Shay Noir dropped fire earlier this year. Her voice sometimes is but she gets busy. We're gonna talk about her album in a second.
Talk about Shay. I have
LP
some similar
says
remarks as well.
LP says y'all should let us get in on the debates. They say y'all should. I'm sorry. Y'all should let us get on and debate y'all. Yeah, okay. I think that's another thing that we could do on the new platform too. Y'all can get on a debate. I mean, the show would be like 5 hours if y'all got on and started debating us, because I mean, we already be stretching it out.
I would advise against that for y'all. You're not gonna win, but that's fine.
We'll let y'all debate Coop then. Cut the time, and y'all can debate me on Steph.
Debate me, like real talk. I would not want to deal with me like all the time, like Mike. Dude, I'm the wrong guy for that job.
Ryan Gillum says y'all should play Coop's album American Beauty on the new podcast.
Oh, I made that album between 2005 and 2007, between California and Atlanta. It's on iTunes. I think people have been getting wind of it, but that's not the fire stuff. The fire stuff is the Souls of Black folks stuff.
Well, we're going to play some of our music on the podcast and stuff.
Yeah, I was about to say, you want to know what? Me and Mike are going to probably do our verses that we've never talked about. Me and Mike got tracks line. Like, my best shit people have never heard. Like, the album that's on iTunes, I got nothing like the tracks, Mike, that I sent you. Like, people were trying to sign me about those tracks when they heard them.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
AKs and Curtin says Shay Noir has been cooking since she dropped Juno.
No, I went back and dug. We gonna talk about it. We about to talk about it.
Jay Short says, why Timberland kept getting passes for bringing folks to the barbecue and letting them leave with all the ribs and potato salad. All right. I love what you just said there, and I'm a Timberland fan. I'm going to go ahead and say that off top.
I'll say you go.
But this is the thing, man. When Pharrell and Chad, when the Neptunes walked away from working with Justin Timberlake because of how Jive was treating the clips, I thought it was very whack for Timberland to say, I'll do the whole album. Really? And then that's when you got, the second album, Future Sex Love Sound, with Sexy Back and all that. This is why Timberland was actually over that whole Justin Timberlake project, because Pharrell stepped away from that project on principle. And then come to find out, you grew up with Malice too? And Pharrell? Like, come on, man. That's kind of whack.
Know each other their whole lives.
That's crazy to me. Pharrell's a good dude.
Hey, sucker nigga.
Because I'd be like, yo, man.
Wherever you are.
Because you broke the picket line, essentially. And then on top of you breaking the picket line for your individual friends, like he said, you let somebody come to the barbecue and walk away with all the ribs and potato salad.
Just take the whole plate. Hook them up with a nice big plate.
Because basically what Jive said essentially was like, okay, Neptunes, y'all don't want to work? We got Timberland. And if Timberland would have said no, then where y'all going to go then? There was nowhere to go then. There's nobody at that time that was like the Neptunes and Timberland that could give Justin Timberlake anything that resembled what that was. Who were they going to get at that point? They would have been asked out and they would have had to do right by the clips at that point.
Listen to what I'm about to say. If you want to hear Timberland's best work outside of Missy and Aaliyah, you actually have to go listen to Justin Timberlake's albums.
Okay, they work great together. I think he did some dope stuff with Nelly Furtado, too.
He did some dope stuff with her, but Justin was around for all those sessions, too. You know, it's the same time frame, right? All that stuff.
Nelly was first.
Justin's right there.
Yeah, it was right after, but I think
that's
with
why
that whole...
It's shock value. It's got Nelly, Justin, and Timberland on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, same time frame. That's right after Future Love Sexy Sound.
No, Nelly was before that one, but he was working with Justin before. I mean, the stuff that they made together on Justified sounded like Cry Me a River and Mr. JT and all that stuff. But the elephant in the room here is the person that was working with Timberland through all of this. What's his name? Y'all probably know in the chat. What is his name? Damn it, it's gonna come to me in a second. I feel horrible. But yeah, he was working with Timberland on the Nelly Furtado album and on the Justin album. What is his name? Hold on.
Engineer?
No,
We talking about
no,
engineer?
producer.
Oh, producer.
Nah, I'm about to look this up right now.
Ooh, who you're talking about? Hold on.
You know who I'm talking about.
I do. Hold on. Because he's big. Hold
on. Future Sex Love Sounds. Danja, thank you, Jordan House. Danja Hands, yes. So that whole new thing that Timbaland was coming with, Danja had a lot to do with that. And you could hear Danja's influence on Timbaland's record like you hear Chad's influence on Pharrell's stuff. It sounds a lot more full. And it's not just about the beat patterns and all that stuff. So Danja was very important in that whole Nelly Furtado and Justin Timberlake run. But again, when it comes to that whole situation with Jive and the fact that the Neptunes were telling Jive Records, like, look, until y'all do right by the Clips, we're not getting on this Justin Timberlake album. And Jive was able to sit there and say, okay, fine. Fuck it, we'll give it to Timbaland. And Timbaland sat there and accepted that. That's not cool. And nobody said anything about that. And as a fan of all of you guys, I'm going to say something about that. That was whack.
And hence the line on Mr. Me Too. These are the days of our lives. And I'm sorry to the fans, but the crackers won't play fair and jive.
But you know what? Timbaland had it in his arsenal to make them play fair. If Timbaland would have said, oh, they're not in it, I'm not doing it either. Who else is going to produce this Justin album? And at the time, we got to rewind back to 2005. Justin was a cash cow for Jive. They needed Justin's albums to go and go well. Yeah.
Not a cash cow.
He was the cash cow for Jive as a solo artist. And so if Timbaland backed out, there was nobody else they would have been able to get to do this album. Who else is going to do it?
That they didn't leverage their power properly and they capitulated and played the game to make Justin
Timbaland didn't leverage his individual power. I'm putting this on Timbaland because Pharrell sat there and leveraged his power.
So we can't be surprised when he does it 20 years later with Verzuz is what you're saying.
Not at all.
Okay. No. You're making very fair and astute points, and I'm glad that you're highlighting the whole Jive situation. Okay, so I'm going to tell you what.
It's disappointing, honestly.
No, let me tell you what was going on, Mike. I was not only living in Cali, I was living La Vida Loca in Cali at the time and recording music. So a lot of that behind the scenes stuff I missed and didn't catch me till later. Mm-hmm. So like kudos to you for kind of like revisiting that and bringing that back up the right way, because all that happening is how all the Re-Up Gang mixtapes started happening that I started hearing in Cali. Like, you know, the Re-Up Gang stuff started happening when I was in Cali. I was like, what are they doing? I was like, what's going on?
Well, I remember when it happened. This is back when, me and Ron used to go to like the computer lab and get on MTV.com for our news and shit. So it's like, I remember when Pharrell made that stand, because I like the Neptune stuff the most on Justified, on Justin's first album. I remember when Pharrell actually made it public, like, look, nothing against Justin. He's my brother, or whatever Pharrell said. And he was like, it's Jive Records. And I told them, I'm not touching his project until y'all do right by the Clips. And I was like, oh, wow. And then next thing I know, the news comes out that Timbaland's producing the whole thing. Now, granted, at the time, I didn't know how close Timbaland was with them growing up and even, just proximity. I knew both of them were from Virginia and all that. But looking at the timeline now and looking at the fact that Timbaland grew up with Malice and all of them too and was in a group with Pharrell, I'm like, damn, man, that's kind of whack.
Only thing that's not whack about it is the music.
Oh, yeah, dope album.
The music delivered. No, and I say this to say, this is what I mean about capitulating, though. What year was that? That's 04, 05-ish, right?
Yeah, 05-ish.
Why didn't you give that to Usher?
Exactly.
All right.
See, now that's funny you say that, because the Neptunes, they were giving everybody.
That's all I got to
say.
The
Neptunes were giving everybody shit. So
that's the shit I'm talking about. No. You gave Justin Timberlake a better R&B album than you gave somebody, I don't know, who was in our culture at their peak at the same time, that literally was in competition with this guy, and you gave him like he gave.
Well, it may have been the JD factor because
Man, he gave him
Timbaland
so
wasn't
much smoke he could huff and puff and man.
Timbaland wasn't rocking with Jermaine at the time, really.
I don't
So
care
maybe
about
that's
that.
what it was. I don't know, but at least the Neptunes can say they gave both of them heat. They gave Usher, you don't got to call, you ain't got to call, and stuff like that. Like,
I'm saying, like,
yeah.
You give Usher no heat. You gave he gave Timberlake all the heat, like all the heat. He gave him heat on album 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah,
like
he dug deep.
Like, the 2020
he went and got some help.
the production on 2020 Experience carries 2020 Experiences. Timbaland is literally doing 2 beats per track, and he's killing. He is killing it. I'm like, man.
You know, somebody in the chat says that Genuine suffered the most from the Justin Timberlake wave. And it's interesting because when I heard My Love for the first time, I thought, like, yo, I've heard this on Genuine projects.
What, My Love?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, you're right. That sounds very When Doves Cry remake, Baby I'm Sorry-ish.
Yes. Yeah. 100%, you know.
Yeah. I don't know.
DeCarlo says, can't be mad at Timbaland for choosing himself.
Well,
the thing is, DeCarlo.
How many times are you going to choose yourself, though? It's 20 years later. You have hundreds of $1 million more. It's like you chose yourself 20 years ago. You couldn't choose us this time? You couldn't choose the culture this time?
Well, this is the thing, though, and this is where I stand on it. Timbaland, you're one of the all-time greats, and you're a one of one, to be honest. If you would have stood with that fortress, they would have buckled, and the Clips would have gotten their situation, and both of y'all would have been on this project. You know what I'm saying?
Cool. I'll take my Hell Hath No Fury and my Re-Up Gang mixtapes.
Well, it's funny how things fall.